For the beginner ranks in Rocket League, the requirements to get to the next rank can be very simple. A few more hours of playtime could be all it takes to move on. But as you progress through the ranks, the requirements become far more demanding, and trying to figure them out becomes much more daunting. These are the invisible walls that exist between each rank, and they all have different requirements to pass them. Out of every wall that divides the ranks, the walls between Platinum, Diamond, and Champ are where most players get stuck. The difference between these ranks isn't understanding a concept that's completely new. It is the comprehension, understanding, and application of the four major concepts of game sense. These are the hidden walls between Platinum, Diamond, and Champ. For every wall that divides the ranks, each of them represents achieving a higher level of game sense and understanding. This could be a new concept, idea, or knowing more about something you've already learned. Passing the wall means you've achieved a new level of understanding. The invisible walls between Platinum, Diamond, and Champ work the exact same way, but instead of learning something completely new, each of these walls only require a deeper understanding of the four major concepts of game sense. These concepts are rotation, recovery, defense, and offense. So as you move on to the next rank, your understanding will need to increase. Now let's start at the very bottom, the first rank, where understanding begins to happen. Platinum is the first rank where the core fundamentals of game sense starts to be understood. They have a very basic understanding of how the game is supposed to be played, but their application of the concepts are lacking. Out of rotation, recovery, defense, and offense, rotation is the only one that has any real application. Even with rotation being the first of the four concepts applied, it is extremely rough and many players at that rank don't understand how it works. Rotation is the only concept that is applied at a large scale, so we'll go over that first. When I was studying Platinum gameplay, I realized that this rank was very diverse, but not in a good way. Almost every player seems to know about rotation, but it is applied to different degrees. Some players try to rotate while others just mindlessly chase the ball around the field. The rotation in Platinum is extremely rough and has a few major issues. Double commits happen all the time in Platinum, and the reason for that has to do with not being aware of what's going on in the match. It isn't uncommon for players in this rank to completely ignore where their teammate is, or if they're going for the ball. When players ignore their teammates, they have no context for the situation, and will just go without thinking. Tunnel visioning causes bad field awareness, and having bad field awareness will hinder your ability to think ahead. This is why players in this rank are constantly racing around the field trying to get to the proper position, and going when they don't need to. If they were able to focus on what's happening in the match, they would be able to make better decisions for each situation. The idea of rotation is present in Platinum lobbies, but players lack the field awareness and experience needed to make it work properly. Since the other three concepts aren't as present in Platinum compared to Diamond and Champ, the rest of their gameplay has very little structure. A lot of the time, the offense in Platinum involves hitting the ball around the field until it eventually goes in. The defense is also very similar in this way. It lacks any structure, and they just hit the ball until it goes away from their net. The lack of proper structure is one of the reasons why players get stuck in this rank. There's very little playmaking and a low understanding of the other core concepts. With the other three concepts having next to no application, they get stuck in a loop of playing games that seem to be completely out of their control. The wall between Platinum and Diamond has to do with your general awareness of what's going on in the match, and the application of all four concepts. There is a major improvement in all aspects of game sense between Platinum and Diamond, but I'll just give a list of the biggest differences between the ranks. Being able to think ahead of the play and make a decision with that information, consistently being aware of everyone's current situation, and having a higher consistency when hitting the ball. The main thing you need to focus on is your understanding and application of offense and defense. You should never hit the ball only for the sake of hitting it. Each touch needs to have a purpose behind it. Start learning how to control the ball and try to have more structure to your gameplay. If you want to hit Diamond, don't hit the ball around until it goes in. Try to take control over your own gameplay and stop wasting opportunities. Diamond is the first rank where all four concepts of game sense starts to be applied. The understanding of rotation has increased by a considerable amount. Offense and defense are finally starting to be applied, and recoveries have also improved a lot. Overall, the level of understanding has reached an intermediate level. In Diamond lobbies, the concept of rotation is more understood than before. Diamond players started to pay attention to their teammates, and will let their teammate go if they're in a better position. This is a massive improvement over Platinum gameplay, but the improvements don't end there. Diamond players are able to think ahead and use that information to be in a better position. Being able to think ahead of the play is very useful for every aspect of game sense. Before we move on to the other improvements, let's talk about the rotational errors. There are still times where double commits happen because players fail to pay attention to their teammates. Diamond players have a higher level of awareness when it comes to opponents, but teammate awareness is still lacking. Even though this isn't as much of an issue compared to Plat, it is still big enough to be mentioned because it's a symptom of a much larger issue. Let's take another scenario as example. These players are able to think ahead of the play, but the things that they do with that understanding can sometimes make the situation worse. Some players will try to bump the last man back, but focus all their attention on bumping and forget about reading the situation. This can result in players trying to be helpful for a play that's no longer happening. These brief moments where players lose focus on the play are what causes these issues to happen. Even though Diamond players have better intuition, they are still getting distracted and lose focus on what's going on. Thinking ahead is one of the things that separates Diamond from Plat, but their ability to think ahead is still limited to only things that will happen immediately, not something that happens much later. If you're a Diamond, I would recommend trying to think ahead at a much more advanced level, because that's one thing that separates Diamond from Champ. Now that we got rotation out the way, we can talk about offense and defense. Offense and defense are the two major concepts that are responsible for giving your gameplay structure. The offense in Diamond has improved a decent amount compared to Platinum. Diamond is where more players start controlling the ball and can better recognize passes. Both of these things are far more than what the average Platinum player does, but there are some issues that need to be fixed. Control is one of the most important concepts in Rocket League, so mastering it is extremely important. In Diamond, control only sees usage when it's for attacks, but not for anything else. There are a lot of times where the ball just gets thrown away to the opponents without any real reason behind it. This is something that can get you scored on if you're not careful. Control is an extremely broad category. It's not just used for offense, it could also be used for defense in any place where you have possession over the ball. Wasting your possession is wasting your opportunity. Passing is also something you need to be careful of. Passing in Diamond is extremely strong because players at that rank aren't able to play for multiple possible attacks all that well. Any major change in the play they're expecting is almost guaranteed to go in. As you move up in rank, basic passes out in the open won't be as effective. Better players can easily read it and would be there to intercept. Passing becomes more situational the higher you go, so try to understand when passing is good and when passing is a wasted opportunity. Out of the four major concepts of game sense, recovery is the least understood among the general player base. Recovery isn't about just going back to your net as fast as possible after challenging. It's about judging how much you're able to get away with before needing to reintroduce yourself into your team's rotation. Mastering this concept takes a very deep understanding of how the situation is going to unfold and knowing what your teammate is able to handle. In Diamond, this concept is starting to be understood. Instead of immediately going back to net after challenging, some players can understand the situation and know exactly how much time they have before they are needed. The general understanding of recoveries is still at a very basic level, so a player going for boost and leaving their teammate in a 2v1 situation still happens somewhat often. Being able to correctly judge the situation every time is a very important part of game sense. The barrier between Diamond and Champ is a very difficult one to pass. Not only do you need to have a very deep understanding of the four game sense concepts, you need to be able to subconsciously apply them to your gameplay at a very high level. Champ is the beginning of high-level Rocket League, and one of the requirements is being able to apply the four concepts properly without even thinking. Wasting time deciding where you should go, how to attack, or anything else is too slow for Champ gameplay. The four concepts are what every player needs to learn and is the foundation that makes up gameplay. A subconscious understanding of the four concepts isn't the only thing that's required for Champ. You also need to be able to properly control the ball in almost any situation, and be able to consistently get good touches. The complete understanding of the four major concepts, being able to apply them subconsciously, having a high level of consistency, and being able to control the ball properly is the difference between Diamond and Champ. If you manage to make it to Champ, you deserve some appreciation. Only 10% of players will ever make it to this rank, and for very good reason. Champ is the first rank where all four concepts of game sense are understood and actively applied to their gameplay. Because of this, I consider Champ to be the beginning of high-level Rocket League. In Champ gameplay, the concept of rotation is deeply understood and it is applied at a subconscious level. Diamond players know almost as much as Champ players, but Champ players are able to recognize what's going on much faster. They're instantly able to recognize this because of the subconscious game sense that the other ranks don't have. This allows them to put the basics on the back burner and pay more attention to what's going on in the field. It also allows them to make split-second decisions on every aspect of gameplay, and think ahead at a much higher level. Diamond was the first rank where the ability to think ahead was clearly shown. The only problem is that they're only able to think ahead for things that have an immediate consequence, and not something that would happen much later. Champ players are able to think ahead at a much higher level. Their predictions are more accurate, even for more complex scenarios. This allows them to understand rotation at a deeper level, and helps them be in the right position at the right time. There are many changes that have been made to offense in Champ. Not only are they able to think ahead more clearly, they are also able to control the ball much better than the other ranks. Because the overall processing speed of Champ has been enhanced by the subconscious understanding, they are able to recognize opportunities much faster and can control the ball in any situation. Their offense has strong structure, and there is a much clearer intention behind their plays. The defense in Champ has improved as well. In Champ, they aren't mindlessly hitting the ball around. They are starting to pay attention to where the opponents are positioned and actively take them into consideration. They are keeping the ball close when there isn't a good opportunity to clear, and making good touches on the ball that don't leave their teammates in a bad position. This high-level awareness of where the opponents are and where your teammate is are the two things that make their defense so strong. This isn't something that all Champ players are able to display at a high level, but it is something that the majority of Champ players are able to do. Recoveries have seen a major improvement in Champ. They are now able to understand situations better and can better understand how much time they have before needing to involve themselves back into their rotation. They understand that recovery isn't just about going back as fast as you can. Many Champ players are able to tell exactly what's going to happen in a play and can recover into a position where the ball will fall right into their hands. This is a very high understanding of recoveries and is a massive improvement over Diamond. The general game sense of Champ has massively improved over Diamond. It's not just about understanding what's needed, it's about applying the four major concepts to every aspect of your gameplay at a subconscious level. Rotation, recovery, defense, and offense are the four major concepts of game sense. The walls between Platinum, Diamond, and Champ will require a deeper understanding of these concepts. Platinum represents the initial comprehension, while Champ represents the highest understanding of these four concepts. Even though the comprehension, understanding, and application are at such a high level, that alone isn't enough to get to Grand Champ or anything beyond that. The four concepts are nothing more than the surface level understanding of how the game is supposed to be played. It is only the foundation for something that goes much deeper. The foundation for an almost incomprehensible understanding of Rocket League. Unfortunately, that is a topic saved for a different time. Anyways, thanks for watching and don't get tilted.